Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AIFS Study Abroad session on Being a Woman Abroad. My name is 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦. I am the Vice President Director of Alumni and Inclusion Initiatives, and I'm very excited to be joined by my colleague Maura, as well as many of our Alumni Ambassadors today who are going to speak to their experiences. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to drop them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them along the way. And with that, away we go. So first off, I wanted to just give everyone kind of an overview of AIFS. We are one of the oldest study abroad providers, having been around since 1964. We have programs that are as short as 2 weeks and as long as a year. So no matter what length of time you want to go abroad, we can assist. We have programs in 35 locations around the globe. And we have one of my favorite things about our summer traveling programs is the fact that you get to study one topic comparatively. So if you're not exactly sure where in the world you might want to go, but have a subject that you would like to study, that's a great option. For our programs, we work with all majors. So no matter what you're studying, we are happy to kind of help you figure out what the best program location might be for your academic needs. We do not have a language requirement. So we have a lot of locations where English is the native language, as well as the location, or sorry, the language of study. But flip side of that is if you are currently studying a language or you have an interest in studying a language, you can go to many of our locations, start your work in the language or continue it, and then take your other classes in English. So we work with all levels of language. We also work with all levels of academics, as far as you can be a high school senior through a graduating college senior, and we have space for you. Last but not least, all of our programs are guaranteed in US dollars. That's just really good to know, so that as you're planning ahead for your study abroad experience, the fees that you see published on the website are not going to change. All of our programs are set up to be all-inclusive. So the fee that you pay is going to include guaranteed housing, which will be arranged by AIFS. Depending on your location, that might be a residence hall, a homestay, a student apartment. So you might have some options, again, depending on location. We include your meal plan as well, which might be a stipend or meal vouchers, depending on your location. We have staff in country in every location. So you're gonna have someone local that speaks both English as well as the native language in country. It's gonna be a really great resource for you if you have any questions or if you need assistance as you are going through your program. One of the things that our students talk about a lot that they really appreciate is the fact that they have a lot of opportunities to engage with the local culture. So we have weekly cultural activities as well as excursions that are included, so day trips and weekend trips. One of the things that parents and family typically like to know as well, give a little peace of mind, is that your health and travel insurance is included not only for the duration of the program, but up to 30 days after. So if you decide to stay and kind of travel around while you're abroad, you are going to be covered if you sprain your ankle or if you get a cold. And then also another thing that parents and families seem to like is the fact that we have an optional flight and transportation package. So especially important if this is your first time traveling after a long day, you've got some jet lag, you don't have to worry about how do I get from the city center or to the city center from the airport. We've got you covered. We meet you at the airport, take you into the city center. And then of course, in my role, I work a lot with our alumni. So once you get back, we have a lot of programming opportunities for you to learn how to take your experience and work with it in the career setting, as well as be able to share your experience with others. And just a couple of resources I want to make sure that you're aware of. We have some amazing alumni who are always happy to talk about their experiences. And if you'd like to talk with folks who either studied from a particular location or have your same social identities, you can always reach out to us at alumni@aifs.com, and I'll be more than happy to connect you with alumni. We also have the student webinar series. This is one of the features of this is the session you're in right now. So if you visit the website at the bottom of the page, you'll be able to see all the offerings. We've got a couple more that are going to be here for the fall semester, and we also will be continuing this in the spring. Certainly, like everyone, we've got social media channels. So if you're a visual person, you can go check out our blog, our social channels, and our YouTube and see some videos. And then we also have our student resources site that has some great FAQs and different information for social identities. So with that, now I want to kind of open it up to all of our panelists. We have some incredible alumni with us today, and I'm very, very happy to have all of you here with us. First off, I just would love for you to introduce yourselves, and I'm going to actually start with my colleague Maura. I know you're not an alum, but I would love for everyone to kind of know who you are as well, since you're with us. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, absolutely. Hi there. My name is 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, and I am the Regional Vice President of University Relations for AIFS Abroad in the Northeast, meaning I have the dual joys of working with students in their initial stages of studying abroad, figuring out programs, figuring out a good fit, finding out sort of what are the reasons to pick one program over another. And then I also get to work with universities as they're figuring out what are their overarching strategies, what are their institutional goals, what are their hopes for their academic programs abroad, and those types of things. So I work with universities from the western border of New York in Buffalo all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. So I have a region that covers New York and New England.
Excellent. There's a train going on behind my house here. Susanna, would you introduce yourself as well? Another AIFS colleague with me.
Hi everyone, I'm Susanna 𝗟𝗧𝗦, and I'm the University Relations Rep for customized faculty-led programs, and I oversee the eastern half of the US. And I work with faculty in the beginning stages of implementing customized faculty-led programs, so creating them specifically to match their curriculum. And also I assist with the recruitment process and getting students to join their programs. I am also an alum of an AIFS program. I studied abroad with AIFS in the spring of 2015 in London. So I do have a little bit of background in that, but yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And then for my alumni ambassadors, if you would introduce yourself and just talk about your name, first off, your home university, and of course, when and where you studied abroad. And Laura, if you would kick us off, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura and I'm an AIFS Alumni Ambassador. I'm currently a senior at the University of California, Irvine, majoring in Business Administration, and I studied abroad with AIFS during the fall semester of 2018 in Barcelona, Spain.
Thank you. Whitney, I'm just going to call you the order you are in my screen. So Whitney, you're next.
Hi everyone, my name is Whitney. I am a senior at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, and I studied abroad in Grenoble, France this past spring of 2020.
Thank you. Lauren.
Hi y'all, my name is Lauren. I'm a fourth year student at the University of Texas at Austin, where I study population health, government, and German. And I studied abroad with AIFS in Salzburg, Austria in the fall 2019 semester.
Thank you. Alyssa.
Hi everyone, my name's Alyssa. I'm a senior at Seton Hall University in New Jersey, majoring in international relations and modern languages, and I studied abroad with AIFS in spring 2020 in Grenoble, France.
Thank you. Alina.
Hi everyone, my name's Alina. I am a sophomore at the University of California, Berkeley, studying environmental science, and I studied abroad in Granada, Spain in fall of 2018.
Thank you. Alexis.
Hello everyone, my name is Alexis and I am a senior English major at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, and I studied abroad in London during the fall 2019 semester.
Thank you. Gabby.
Hello everyone, my name is Gabby. I am currently a student at Worcester State University in Massachusetts studying communications, and I studied abroad with AIFS in Prague, Czech Republic in the spring of 2020.
Excellent, thank you. And Lily.
And hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yep, we can hear you now.
Hey everyone, my name is Lily, or Alicia, as you can see on my screen. I attend Boston University. I'm a senior, majoring in exercise science, and I studied abroad in the summer of 2019 in San Jose, Costa Rica.
Perfect. Welcome to you all. Thank you all for being here. I would love to sort of get the conversation started with what were the gender norms and societal gender roles in your study abroad location? And if you just want to kind of go in the same order for this first question, it might be easiest. So Laura.
Yes, so I studied abroad in Barcelona, Spain, and one thing I noticed during my time abroad, just traveling through Europe, is that throughout Europe, the role of women is a lot more old-fashioned than I feel like it is here in the US and what I grew up with. A lot of women tend to be stay-at-home moms. You don't really see as many out in the workforce, but I was very happy to see that in Barcelona. More women had higher roles. I had actually a lot of very inspiring professors who talked to me about their career, and I had one professor who always talked to us about, like, I was always one of the only women bosses and people sometimes treated me differently, but I let them know that I was just as worthy and even more worthy of what I was doing. And so I thought that was so inspirational, and I loved hearing about my professors' stories about their career in Barcelona. And I think they're not where they should be, but they are getting there. And so I thought that was really great.
Thank you. Whitney.
Yeah, so in Grenoble, France, I definitely felt like it was very similar to what Laura said. Like my host mom, she was a stay-at-home mom, well, she didn't have to be with her children, they were grown, but like she would take care of the house and she would cook the food. So very traditional in that aspect. And as far as just when I went to places around the city, I definitely saw a lot of women like working in the bakeries, in kind of what like the visitor center sort of thing where you can get information. I definitely saw women out there, so it wasn't like they were completely just in the households. But yeah, it definitely wasn't, from what I noticed, because I didn't notice a whole lot, but like women still had a place there and they were making a living based on whatever they were doing, whether it was in the home or in a place of work.
Perfect. Thank you. Lauren?
Yeah, so I think Austria is a very progressive country in this regard. It's women are largely treated as equals, I believe, to, at least in my experience, as equals to men in the workplace, in academia, kind of in those more professional settings. That was definitely what I noticed in the cities. I'm not sure, I didn't spend too much time in the countryside, so it could be different. If it's anything similar to Germany, in that regard, I would say the two countries are pretty similar. So they're largely treated as equals. But one thing I did notice is that it's a Catholic majority country. And so there were some expectations of modesty in general, in terms of, what you do with your dating life or how you dress, those sort of things. But that was really the only limitation of women that I noticed.
Perfect. Thank you. Alyssa?
Yeah, like Whitney said, in France, there were a lot I noticed of like just stay-at-home moms, like walking around with strollers and their children. It was a very family-oriented city, I felt like, in Grenoble, where there were a lot of young families. But one thing that I did notice among like women our age especially, I felt like it was a very empowering environment. Like women dressed the way they wanted. They were outspoken in my classes. So I really appreciated that sense of the gender norms that I saw in my experience there.
Excellent. Thank you. Alina?
Yeah, so kind of jumping off what everyone else has said, Spain is very much traditional. It's a Catholic majority country, but there is this amazing clash between the older generations and the younger generations, where the older generations, have this expectation that you're going to dress modestly and women are going to stay home and they're going to be the cooks. But people that are part of my generation were very much out there, dressing how they wanted, acting how they wanted, and really pushing what's possible for women in that country. So it was a really interesting experience on that front.
Absolutely. Thank you. Gabby?
So I was in the Czech Republic in Prague, which is a very busy city. So I felt like I noticed lots of women dressed very business forward and very nice, like power suits. It felt very empowering to see them all kind of on their way to their very exciting city jobs. The Czech Republic is largely atheist, so there weren't as many like religious expectations and things like some of my fellow panelist members have said. So I thought that was very interesting, and I felt like the women in the Czech Republic are very highly thought of and very well respected, most definitely.
Excellent, thank you. Lily.
I would say I'm on my iPad, I'm so sorry, and it is going extremely slow. Can you guys hear me?
That's okay, yeah, we can hear you and see you okay.
I would say for me, the gender norms were more so in the workplace. Like a lot of the homestays were all women. They were all stay-at-home moms, or some of them were teachers, things like that, or they took care of the child. And then you would see men, when I would go to like different restaurants, they were like on the business, or you would see them as security guards or things like that. But I definitely would say that women were well respected in San Jose.
Excellent, thank you. And then Alexis.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about gender norms, at least because I feel like in London specifically is like a hub of like diversity and so many different cultures kind of like clashing together. So it's kind of hard to know what the gender norms of England as a whole is compared to London specifically. But I think just based on the predominant Christian religion that exists in the UK, I feel like it's more traditional. I still feel like women have a lot of strides to make in terms of like wage equality and access to higher paying jobs. I know a lot of women work in the service industry, especially in London. That's like one of the biggest job industries in London specifically. And in terms of like dress, I would say London is more, you can kind of dress however you want and walk however you want and kind of go with whatever style you want. But I would also say that London and Britain as a whole is very obsessed with class still. And so that kind of intersects with gender and sexuality norms. So it's all kind of like the intersectionality is really interesting. But London is definitely a place where you can be pretty much whoever you want to be and express that and not feel unsafe about it.
Excellent, thank you. And I also experienced that. I know I got 20 years on all of you, but I experienced a similar thing when I studied abroad myself in London. So I would love to hear, Whitney, if you could talk a little bit about how you prepared for going abroad.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I did was trying to just be around the French language. So like I had the Duolingo app to just work on like the basics and just try to remember that. Just being around like French music, French movies, things like that, to try to get into like the idea of being surrounded by that language, by French language. But so that was really fun, like just to experience things outside of the norm that I was doing for 20 years of my life. But as far as like getting to know the city, I tried to look it up. I felt like there weren't a lot of pictures. I saw a lot of like the campus and like one view of the campus that I actually did find. It was determined to find that angle. And it was just beautiful with the mountains in the background. So I was just trying to do some research on the city, get to know it just through the internet. But as far as safety, since we're talking about women abroad, one thing that I was determined to do was buy a like safety secure backpack. So that might be going a little overboard, but I knew I wanted to take this backpack on like weekend trips and just be secure in knowing that I'm not going to get pickpocketed, or that I can try my hardest to like prevent that. So like I just searched on like Amazon, all the different kinds of backpacks, and I found one that I really trusted and it held up very nicely. So that's one thing I did as far as like the safety aspect. And I also brought a little pepper spray thing just to be on the safe side that I carried with me. But yeah, so those are just a few things that I did to prepare. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Just a side note, pepper spray is not permitted in every location, so definitely research that before you study abroad, just full disclosure. There are some locations that is permitted, but other places it will definitely get pulled at the airport out of your luggage, so plan ahead. And I would like to open it up now to the rest of not only my colleagues, but also the panelists. Any other tips for kind of what you did to prepare for going abroad?
Awesome. So I would say just researching a lot, whether that be through meeting people who studied abroad there. That's definitely one thing I tried to do as much as possible. I contacted friends I knew who studied abroad, even better if they were like in Barcelona. So I tried to get all the information I could out of them, like what are things I need to be careful about, where should I go, like any sort of tips they could give me I found super useful. Of course, there's tons of online resources as well you can look up. And also, this is really funny, one second. Whitney mentioned the theft-proof backpack, and guess what I have right here? A theft-proof backpack. And so I thought that was funny, but that's also a great thing to have. I also have, like, if you listen to my theft-proof backpack, there's a bell on my wallet, so no one can steal that without me first realizing someone's getting into my theft-proof backpack and then hearing it. So a lot of these little things that maybe you wouldn't ever think about, like by chatting with people who went to Europe or studied abroad anywhere, I like got those ideas and then they end up helping. So yeah.
It's a great idea. I love the put a bell on it, that way, any other pointers in this space?
I have one more thing to add. Also, I never wanted to find myself in a situation where I was like, say if I got stuck in a country I was coming back from, or if it was late and something happened and I had no one to call. So I downloaded any possible emergency contacts phone numbers into my phone, whether it be for my family or for the AIFS like on-site staff, or the US Embassy, like which is maybe extreme, but like I was definitely want to be prepared in that sense. And especially with like the entry and exit codes for the country is important. So and just figuring out like my phone plan with that, because that was like one thing that I was always kind of like nervous about going into it, was getting like stuck somewhere and having no one to call and like not knowing what to do. So that gave me a lot of peace of mind in that sense.
Well, that's a great tip.
Yeah, that's a really great tip. I was just going to say that is a really great tip. And one thing that we recommend is that you not just have that in one place, maybe have that as a printout, but then also email it to yourself and have it as a screenshot on your phone. So if you don't have your phone, you could go to an internet cafe and look it up. And if you don't have access to an internet cafe, then you maybe have a paper copy in your wallet. So just have it in a couple of different spots just in case.
Absolutely. So I'm going to move us. We got more questions, so we can always revisit this one. Gabby, will you talk to us a little bit about what were the cultural norms in your study abroad location regarding friendship and dating?
Yes, so the Czech people are very reserved at the beginning when you first meet them. So if you're trying to kind of make a nice, lovely Czech friend, they are great friends to have. I definitely learned that chatting with them, asking them so much about their culture, they're such a useful resource. If you try to speak to Czech people in their language, they are so very happy to talk to you some more in regards to friendship. And in the dating cycle, while I wasn't focused on dating at my time abroad, I definitely found it was very similar to American dating culture, particularly because I would think it must have been because we were in the city of Prague, which is so diverse and hustle bustle and like that. So there's always going to be dating app culture and things like that, and just being aware at bars and things. But I definitely think people are always pretty kind, and always stick together in a group is definitely something we all know to do.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts about friendship and dating abroad? No? All right, then we're gonna move on to the next question. And this one I'll pose to all of you. Did you experience any stereotypes of being a woman from the US while abroad? And if you did, how did you handle that?
Oh,
You first,
Okay.
Alyssa.
Okay, I saw you unmuted too, but okay. Thanks. I definitely did experience one stereotype where at our orientation when I got there, our resident director specifically told us like topics we probably shouldn't talk about with French people, and politics was one of them. And I actually met a few people and they brought up politics, and when they found out that I was from America, they kind of acted like I didn't know what was going on, like both at home and in France. Little did they know I'm an international relations major. I live for politics basically. So that's kind of how I handle it, just like a very quick like no, and here are the facts. So it was really nice that I was also traveling with a lot of girls in my program too, to kind of like back me up. So like we said earlier, just always stick with your groups, and when stereotypes do come out, just like be very like confident in yourself, like don't kind of give in to it or don't take it too harshly if it is something negative.
Absolutely. Great advice. Thank you. And I feel like a couple other folks might have had things to say in that space.
Yes, I definitely agree with Alyssa. Kind of like stand your ground when it comes to stereotypes. I found a lot of the time, depending on the clothing I was wearing, if I was on the tram or something, I was automatically pegged as an American woman, and somebody would come over and make sure that I had my tram pass to be there, or like I was constantly seen as a tourist. So kind of I worked a little bit harder to blend in on my own the more time I spent there, as to not kind of constantly be singled out, and made me feel a lot safer.
Absolutely. Good tip. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Oh, you can go ahead. I'll go last.
Okay. I just wanted to jump in and say that I think one of the things that we don't realize when we go abroad is how obvious it is that we are Americans. You walk around and you think you're blending in, and then you realize you don't, that everyone knows you're an American and that they're treating you differently because of that. Some of the biggest things were like street vendors constantly coming up to me and being like, hey, you should buy this or you should do this. And a lot of that unwanted attention. Also, walking into a store, saying hello in Spanish and then being spoken to in English. So for me, a lot of it was just pushing back and saying like, yes, I know that you know I'm an American, but I'm going to keep trying to speak Spanish, or I'm going to keep saying, no, I'm not going to buy that. And just, you know, trying to blend in, but also trying to be respectful, but also being yourself and, you know, trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in the country.
Absolutely. The nice thing as a study abroad student, if you keep going to the same places, they also will recognize you. In theory, you know, it might take a little while, but you'll get to the point where you have a sense of familiarity, and then maybe they'll start responding to you in Spanish just automatically. Lily, I would love to know your thoughts as well.
It was just funny. It was like a night out with my friends that I had met down there, and it was funny because it's no different than what I experienced here in the US. A lot of men expect women to be submissive when they're around, and it was like I said, it was a night out, and this guy, like, he kept putting his arm around me and all in my face, and, you know, expecting me to dance up on him. I'm like, you know, like, that's not what we're gonna do. You know, we're just gonna have a good time. We're just having fun, and nothing got too out of hand, but it's just something that you experience on a regular if you are on a night out, because like I said, men do expect women to be submissive. So that wasn't surprising, but it was like, okay, like, we're not doing this here.
Absolutely. And going back to the importance of the group, right? If you've got other people with you also, then they can sort of help to redirect focus or redirect energy if necessary. And this actually leads beautifully into the next question that I have. So Alexis, can you talk a little bit about if you experienced any unwanted attention while you were abroad? And if so, how did you handle it?
Yeah, I would say for me, pretty much anytime I spoke aloud in English, I got unwanted attention just because I have a very Midwestern Ohio accent. And as soon as I talk, everyone knows, slaps a label on me. But I would say the most unwanted attention I ever received was actually when I went on weekend trips, like outside of my home country. And I think a lot of with what women have to deal with in terms of unwanted attention, it's a matter of balancing what the culture feels is comfortable or what is normal, and also balancing what your identity is and how you express yourself. I can think of one example where I went to Italy with 3 of my friends, and we went to the Vatican City, which is obviously a very religious, it's a huge symbol in Italian culture. And some of my friends, we didn't go inside any of the religious buildings that were there, but some of my friends weren't necessarily dressed appropriately to enter such, a place as cultural as that. And we received a lot of negative attention, a lot of catcalling from men just on the street saying, "Why are you wearing that? Why are you dressed like that?" And it made a lot of my friends very angry, upset. And it was a learning experience for us all to be able to understand, so if we choose to express our identities just in any culture around the world, we have to be able to understand what those norms are and know how we're going to react if, the natives, treat us a certain way. And I would also say too, in terms of catcalling and unwanted attention, every single culture, and especially in language, a lot of cultures have different ways of being. Some of them are very direct and some of them are very indirect. So it's kind of a really, the way I successfully handled it was just balancing, knowing when to blend in and when certain situations lend themselves that you can stand out and let your personality or your style kind of shine.
Excellent, thank you. Other thoughts from panelists and colleagues in this space?
I can go again.
Yeah.
This really wasn't the only thing that I think was unwanted was how I had my hair. So I know everybody knew I was American. I was one of the only Black females in my group, but I had my hair in braids. They were really nice long braids. And that's a protective style for Black women. So we don't have to do too much when it gets hot because we have a different kind of hair texture. And people kept touching my hair. And it's not that okay, it was unwanted because I knew they were fascinated in it, but I had to sometimes do this to kind of pull my braids out their hand because they'll touch it without asking, or they're, but people in Costa Rica, they don't know what personal space is, I would say. And that's what I learned too. So it was really just, I guess, how I wore my hair, but it was actually kind of funny, I would say. It wasn't really that big of a deal. It was weird.
Good thing to be prepared for though, right? To kind of know that might be a part of your experience before you go abroad. Any other thoughts in that space? All right, then my next question, Lauren, I would love to have you talk a little bit about how you kept safe while you were abroad, including your belongings, your passport and things like that.
Yeah, so Whitney and Laura kind of touched on this a little bit, but so my mom got me this amazing crossbody purse that was theft proof, and it had little locking zippers on it. And it wasn't necessarily the cutest bag ever, but it was truly a game changer because theft is pretty common in relatively highly populated tourist cities. And a lot of my friends kind of over there just brought their cute little purses that they use back here, but then they constantly were holding on to it or having it in front of them the whole time or putting stuff in their front pockets, and just being kind of constantly worried about it. And I think that was a general anxiety that a lot of people had when we would travel, especially. But with my handy dandy anti-theft purse, it did not ever make it into pictures because it was not very cute, but it was cheap on Amazon and I never had to worry about anything. I could put my passport in it. It had even theft-proof pockets within the theft-proof purse. And I always wear it across my chest, even though I usually kind of hate doing that because again, it's not that cute, but I just never had to worry about it then. And the only thing that I had to worry about was just enjoying the scenery around me and taking in the moment. So that was definitely a game changer. And then in terms of other stuff, everyone has already said not traveling alone. That was a big thing for me. And let's see, I think that's kind of honestly actually it. Not traveling alone was my main thing. I did have pepper spray and I also bought a small pocket knife when I got in country. That's just because I generally have one back home. So it's what you're comfortable with. I think generally you don't have to do too much different when you're going abroad than what you generally do back home. So Of course, I couldn't take those things on a plane. So once I got in country, I just got the things that would make me feel comfortable again. And then I kept them in my nice little anti-theft purse, even though it was ugly.
Thanks, Mom. Excellent. What other tips do all of you have?
Yeah, I could go. I think one of the biggest things for me, like on top of what everyone else has said, is to make sure my phone was charged and fully charged at all times, and that I had a portable charger with me if I knew that I was going to be out all day. Because one, like all of my emergency contacts are in my phone, like we said earlier, and also make sure you research what the equivalent of 911 is in the country that you're going to, because it does change between the countries. And then also using like Google Maps, if ever you find yourself in a place that's unfamiliar, Google Maps has a feature where you could be offline and using it. So that's really great. You don't even have to be connected to Wi-Fi to find your way home. So I think staying safe, it's really important to have your phone fully charged with backup to spare, especially also like if you're going anywhere alone.
Absolutely. And I will piggyback off of that. The thing with the Google Maps is you want to download it before. So when you're in a space that has Wi-Fi, download the offline maps version so that, yes, when you're then just traveling around without Wi-Fi, you can access it. And the great thing is you can download, a little city, or you can download Europe and be able to be covered no matter where you go or whatever your study abroad country is. Lily, I feel like you might have had some thoughts as well.
Oh yeah. So for me, I didn't pack any fancy clothes. Everything I had was comfortable. I always had like a comfortable pair of shoes on. I more so packed like I was going to work out every day, nice and comfortable. I also had a fanny pack that it was like really flat to the point where I could put on like a nice t-shirt and just put it over it. So the only thing you'll see is me. My phone will be in there. I'll have my insurance card in there, my keys to my homestay, or I'll have like a sports bra that had like compartments where I can place my stuff as well. And when I got there, I was told like not to wear any fancy jewelry or anything that would attract any type of attention. So I didn't pack any of that either.
Excellent tips as well. Anything else?
I could add one more thing that I found super helpful specifically while traveling. If we were ever going to a hostel or a hotel or something like that, I carried just like a little lock that with like a 3-number code on it. So you can hook that on to maybe you have a locker at your hostel or something like that. And it's so small to just keep in your purse, but to be able to know that you can literally lock anything is a very like nice kind of thing to carry around. I got like a 3-pack of them on Amazon. So in case one broke or it got lost or anything, I had backups as well.
Excellent. That's an excellent tip. And Alina, I feel like you might have had some thoughts.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, especially in terms of travel, I think it's a good idea to sometimes choose a more expensive option that makes you feel safer. So, for example, I never booked a flight that would land in a new city late at night because I didn't want to have to try to find my hostel or figure out where I was going late at night in a completely new city. Also, when I was staying at a hostel, I would usually book rooms that were just for females, even though they tended to be a little bit more expensive, just because you're already sort of sharing a room with strangers, and the idea of sharing a room with men is not something I was comfortable with. So really prioritizing your safety is important when making those types of decisions.
Those are all excellent tips. And also just so as a reminder to those that have not yet studied abroad with us, that we have a fantastic set of staff in our locations abroad, and they're one of the best resources. So if you have questions about, how do I get somewhere safely, or what advice would you have going to this location? They are a wealth of knowledge. So I definitely encourage you, when you're in country, use the resources that you have available to you through the AIFS staff. So I wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit, and Alyssa, I wanted to see, can you talk a little bit about how you made friends while you were abroad?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the biggest advice that I could give is just to be open to putting yourself out there when you go abroad. I think that going abroad is one of the best experiences in terms of meeting new people and creating those kind of lifelong connections with people, not only with the students that you're going abroad with, because, you know, you're all going through this same exact experience where everything is new and you can definitely lean on each other on that sense. So if people want to go out to dinner, say yes. If you want to just get a cup of coffee in between classes, definitely do that and like lean on each other while you're talking about adjusting to the whole life abroad. And then speaking of staff on site, our resident director actually set up like a coffee night where we met students, like French students at the university nearby. So that was really helpful in just meeting other people outside of our program. And then it would just kind of be on us to keep those connections going all semester. So like I said, just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and make those connections with people. Even one girl found a flight that was really cheap for a weekend trip, and she asked in our group chat if anybody wanted to go. I had never met her before, spent like very little time with her, but she was going somewhere I really wanted to go, and I ended up going with her, and now we still talk today even after coming home. So she was one of the best friends that I made while abroad. So definitely be open to those kinds of experiences that can be spontaneous, and you really will make those lifelong memories and friendships that, you know, are just so invaluable.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of times students too are worried that they're going to be the only person from their campus maybe studying abroad. And I can definitely say, you won't be the only person, even if you're the only person from your campus, you won't be the only person who is the only person from their campus. So travel can be a great, a beautiful thing in that way, where it's like, hey, we're all having this experience together, and you end up making friends much quicker than you anticipated. Anyone else have any other tips for making friends while abroad? All right, then we're gonna, go ahead. No, Lena, go ahead.
I was just gonna jump in and say that some countries have like language exchanges where you can actually meet with locals from the city and practice the language. And for me, that was a really great way to get to know people.
Absolutely. And one of the cool things too, especially if you end up doing like a semester program or a full year, you can really get involved with the clubs and organizations, just like you would at your home institution. You can do that while you're abroad. And not to say that you can't if you're a J term or a summer student, but you know, your program is going to be a little quicker. So definitely a great option for those that are doing a semester and longer. Alina, I'm going to actually come back to you and ask you to get us started with, what advice would you give your past self before going abroad?
Advice that I would give my past self would probably have been to do a little bit more research about the culture that I was going to be living in. I was 18 when I studied abroad, so I was very young. And there were a lot of just new experiences in general that I did not feel I was prepared for. One of which in Spain, going to bars is central to the culture. It is how you eat, it is how you interact. And as an 18-year-old, I went from, you know, having never had that experience in the United States to being able to fully have that experience. So I think that is something that I would have wanted to know more about, just in terms of how I needed to prepare myself to be interacting in that space. And I feel like no matter where you're going or sort of what part of your education you're at, there are going to be experiences that are completely new. So kind of researching what the key components of the culture are is really important in just preparing yourself to be there and to be safe there.
Absolutely. And now I welcome it to everyone, including my two colleagues who I know studied abroad, much like me, a couple years prior to all of our ambassador panelists. So any other advice you would give to your past self?
I would say, I think I told Maura this story yesterday or sometime this week. I was very much the student on campus that like would never go anywhere by herself. Like I was very codependent on other people. I wouldn't go sit in the dining hall by myself. Someone had to come to the library with me. Like I needed someone else there. And it was just out of worry for some reason. I don't know why, but going abroad, I didn't know anyone. And I just went, and it was my first time out of the country. And it was, I think I would tell myself, like, you'll be okay. Like, there was no need. Yeah, of course you're going to worry. Like, you always worry. There's always going to be something in the back of your mind, but you're going to survive. You're going to have the best time ever, and you're going to make friends. I was texting my 3 best friends today from study abroad 6 years ago. So you're just it's going to be worth it. And just to chill out. Like, that was the biggest thing for me. It's just like, calm down, take a breath. So I think that's what I would tell myself. And that you don't really need someone else. Like, you can do it on your own, and you're okay by yourself. So I would say that was my like biggest takeaway for sure.
I love that. And I'm still so glad to have learned that about you. I really had no idea. I think for me, one of the things that I wish I had done differently or known before I went abroad, or thought about in a slightly different way. I went abroad, and I had a really great opportunity to become very, very close to other Americans when I was abroad. We had a really great cohort of people, very interesting people from around the country who had cool, interesting backgrounds from places I had never been. I had never met anybody from Iowa before. Tell me about Iowa. And so, I found myself in this great group of people who I found so fascinating and interesting. And then I lived with this host family, and they were amazing. And I just, I found that I spent an entire year living in Germany, and I found that I ended up meeting absolutely no other Germans my own age. And, I have since then, met other Germans my age, but I really do wish that I had met more German peers. And I think if I could go back, that's something I would try and focus on a little bit more. And it is one of my regrets. But I think you can always think, like, even having had the most robust experience ever, there's always something more. I was abroad for a full year, and I'm still like, oh man, if only I could have had 6 more months, or if only I could have another year. What else would I do? So I think that's it for me.
Well, and actually mine kind of blends with that perfectly. It's just the time moves so fast. It moves so quickly, and it moves so quickly abroad, even more so. It's like 4 times faster. So just make sure that you know before you go what you really want to make sure that you accomplish, and stick to that, right? And if no one wants to go with you, go do it anyway. If you're like, I need to see the British Museum and I'm not leaving until I do, or I'm not leaving until I see the Tate Modern, then go and do it, and make sure that you prioritize that. I haven't met a single alum yet who's like, oh, I had plenty of time. I had way too much time. And it's like, no, usually it's, oh, I had this laundry list of things I wanted to do, and it all went by so quickly. So I think just being present and making sure that you are making the most of your time abroad, just in general. I see a lot of head nodding in that space. Any other thoughts for your past self, advice for your past self? No? All right. Then Laura, I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about how did you practice self-care while you were abroad?
Yes, so I think self-care is so important, whether you're back at home in America or you're abroad. Self-care is always very necessary. When I was abroad, if I ever felt a little homesick, or maybe sometimes you travel a lot more than you're used to when you're abroad. Sometimes you do get more fatigued, you're just tired, you're meeting so many people. It does get to a lot sometimes. So it's important to remember to take those, like, even just like an hour a day, just be like, okay, I just need to be alone. Let me just like, I'm a big candy girl, so I'll go get myself some sour candy. I won't even feel bad about it. I'll eat it in my room and watch some Netflix, and that'll help me, like, recenter. Also, staying connected with family at home. I would always text my friends, be like, you want to FaceTime in like an hour, and that always helped me feel better. So just whatever works for you, make sure you still do it while you're abroad. And I know you'll have, like, as you said, there's never enough time, but even so, like, just set apart that time for yourself, because you don't want to get too overwhelmed. And so definitely I'm a big fan of self-care.
Excellent, thank you. Any other tips in the self-care space while you're abroad?
Yeah, I'll add something just to expand off of what Laura said, that I would definitely go back and watch Netflix after class, like if I was feeling tired and I'm just like, I just need a night to relax. Or there was even one time that, because there's like a big hill mountain that has like these little, they're called 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦, or the like bubbles that you can take up to the mountain. And then there's like hiking trails to go up even farther. Well, we were supposed to go in 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦 as like a whole group, but then it got rained out and we just never rescheduled with the time we had left because of COVID. We just didn't get to go. So I did it by myself, kind of going back to the last question. I did that by myself, and then I hiked up the mountain by myself in not hikeable clothing. It was a last minute thing. I'm like, yeah, let's keep going. As I'm like looking nice, I'm like, what am I doing? But just hiking, it was a beautiful day. It was starting to be nice out and I was so excited. And like, I just hiked up the mountain, got to see this gorgeous view of the city, and just to have that time to myself, like just to breathe the French air and see the French mountains and just take it all in by myself. Like, I don't think that's like, I couldn't replace that. I think I definitely wanted to do that by myself rather than doing it with somebody else. I think it would have been awesome with somebody else, but just having that moment that was mine, like, if that makes sense. Like, I think that definitely helps with like the self-care, just going out and doing something on your own, just makes it, I think, all the more special too.
Absolutely. I studied abroad in London. I used to go to the Hungerford Bridge, is my bridge as I refer to it. And I would go on walks from my neighborhood, which was not close necessarily, but I would go on sort of a little walkabout. And then I would just go and stand on the bridge and look at, the Houses of Parliament and listen to the bells go off. And that was, for me, kind of a similar thing where I'm not hiking up a mountain, but it was, just nice to have that moment by myself. So I support that. Any other thoughts in that space?
Yeah, I can add something too. For me, I personally wanted to like see as much as I could and do as much as I can. And I kind of got to the point where, I would go out and explore an area and it would just be like so much sensory overload and I'd be so overwhelmed and I'd end up like having headaches because I would literally force my body to like do so much walking and like all of this other stuff to like try to save money and just see as much as I can. So I think it's really important to take care of your physical body too. And like also don't ridicule yourself for wanting to like have a night in and just stay with your friends and just have human connection. Because there are several times where I would be watching, like, for example, The Crown on Netflix, which is a very British show. It's about the royal family. So I was still kind of incorporating myself in somewhat of British culture. But my friends back at home would like ridicule me, like, why are you sitting in your dorm room in London watching Netflix and you could be out doing something like spectacular? So you can't like be very easy and gracious with yourself and like know whatever like self-care works at home is most likely going to work when you're abroad, and don't feel bad if you like need to slow down and just like take care of you no matter what that looks like.
Absolutely. Any other advice in that space?
If I could add one more thing on the self-care, my favorite thing to do while I was abroad was cook for myself. And I like to kind of like meal prep for the week. I love going grocery shopping alone. Like, it's like more quiet and kind of like going through and picking out all of like the ingredients to kind of make yourself feel better. Because like when we were going out to eat, I was not holding back. We wanted to try all the foods, but then to kind of like take a couple nights a week to cook something like healthy and something that I really enjoyed, and to kind of like set aside maybe like an hour or so, play some music and cook and hang out and like eat something that you like prepared yourself is always such a like nice feeling.
Absolutely. And a great skill that you've built that now is serving you, I'm sure, really well, since cooking at home is definitely a thing that all of us are doing a little bit more these days. Lily, I would love to hear, what was the best part of your experience abroad?
The best part, that is a very hard question because I had a great time. So I'm going to break it up into two. I'm going to do academically and then activity wise. So academically, I would say the best part was that my classes were more so hands-on. They were presentation based. So I was able to do research on a topic that I was interested in, and I was able to present it, and I was able to teach it back to the class. So that was amazing. And we also went on field trips. So I got to indulge myself in the Costa Rican culture even more. I got to volunteer with baby Ticans. That's what they call the kids, the Costa Rican kids. And we also got to visit a nursing home. So that was really nice. And I would say also the best part were the excursions on the weekends, because I got to do something that I never did, whether it was trying new food, listening to music, going to see things up in the mountains. I even got to go ziplining. I've never been ziplining before, on like 10 different zip lines. So that was amazing. I think that was the best part, just on the weekends, experiencing something new, something I've never done in such a short period of time, because I went in the summer of 2019, and I was there for like a month and a half. So that was the best part of my trip.
Would you go ziplining again, is my follow-up question.
Yes, I would. I was scared out of my mind, but I'm definitely a daredevil. I would do it again.
Love that. Thank you. And now I open it up to all of you. What was the best part of your experience abroad?
Yeah, I could go. Like Lily did, I'm kind of gonna break it up also, but one of my biggest goals when I went abroad was just learning the French language. I really wanted fluency. And so one of my biggest success moments was definitely like going out to dinner when friends from home came to visit. And they did not speak a lick of French, and I was like completely translating between them and the waiter even spoke French to me back like the whole time. Like he didn't even try to start speaking English to me. So that was probably like my biggest like yes moment, where I was like, okay, I'm finally learning this language, great. And then like Lily said, again, the excursions and the weekend trips are definitely like the most memorable parts. I was lucky that my school had like a week-long break in February for winter break, and a whole group of us girls in my program did like this whole backpacking trip through like Eastern Europe. And I had never been to all the places that we were going. It was exhausting, but it was just so worth it, just to see all the sights and just get even closer with all the girls in my program.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? I know that's a hard question, right? You're like, that's unfair, don't make me choose. Gabby.
It's definitely a really hard question, but something a little more abstract and definitely super corny. I loved the people I met while I was abroad. Like, those are friendships that genuinely form forever, people I still talk to and things like that. Like, you are really like there just building memories, and it's so nice to share them with somebody. Well, yes, I definitely did a couple things abroad that I enjoyed doing alone, but like overarchingly, having lovely people there was absolutely the best part of my experience.
And I can attest, having 20 years of study abroad experience ahead. Yeah, I've stayed in touch with the folks that I studied abroad with, and we still reminisce all the time about our study abroad experience. So it sticks with you for a lifetime. Well, I really appreciate all of you taking the time to be with me here today. It's been wonderful to hear more about your experiences. For those of you watching at home, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at either studyabroad@aifs.com and alumni@aifs.com. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have and put you in contact with any alum that can give you a lot more details about their experience. We hope you'll join us on future webinars, and stay safe, everyone, and happy holidays. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.